This conference.
So we are going to go ahead and discuss about how a hard drive of a virtual machine's behavior would be and how it's going to basically work. So to ensure or to just get an idea about it, let's go ahead and take one host. I'm just picking one host right now, and yep, it's getting ready. Here we go. I got the VM or I got the host ready now. So I'm going to go ahead and basically take one host in control, and here I would like to go ahead and take it. See, kindly watch it, pay more attention to watch it carefully, because this is one of the most important concepts which we are going to discuss today. This is quite common, which happens every single time with VMware, and we are going in and paying more attention today to go and get a detailed idea about the hard disk file of a virtual machine. So here I would like to go and create a virtual machine, and now comes the deal. I have a ESXi host. The host is ready to work, but let me go ahead and give you a kind of a detailed idea about it. So let's say that if I say that it's a host, so how does it work in the sense I have a CPU. This is the CPU which I have, and the CPU have various components. As you know, that the components which we will be able to find will be SMPS, then you will have motherboard, then you will have processor, then you will have something called RAM, then finally comes the hard disk drive. So if I say these are the components which are there in this, and the hard disk, let's assume that the hard disk is nothing but this big size. Of course, doesn't matter, it could be 40 GB or it could be any size. Perhaps I would like to go ahead and give a size of something like 40 GB to it. So when I give a 40 GB of hard disk size to the box, and I'm trying to install something called the ESXi on top of it. So I'm just going ahead and installing it, ESXi here. ESXi is what I'm going ahead and installing inside it. Now, when I'm installed the ESXi is going to go and use the complete hard drive, and it's going to go ahead and say this hard drive needs to be converted in a file format which is called as, that's a file system which is called as ext2. And in this ext2, it's going to take 7.5 GB of space to install the ESXi and the operating system. So the ESXi and the operating system means, what am I trying to mean? The operating system is the sys Linux and the hypervisor from the version that is from VMware. So both put together, going to go ahead and take 7.5 GB out of it. 7.5 GB is what it's going to take. So the left out space or the remaining space is what I can go and call it as data store. Of course, when it comes to a data store, the data store also maintains something called a file system, and the file system what you have here are nothing but what in the sense, the balance space should be 32.5 GB would be the balance space. Now this maintains a file system. What is the file system? It can be VMFS 3, or it can be something called VMFS 5, or it can be VMFS 6. There are 3 different file systems. Now when you create a VM, you says that you want to go and create a virtual machine, where here is where you are trying to create one virtual machine. The moment you try to create a virtual machine, the virtual machine is going to go ahead and take the actual space in the data store. In the name of what? The same name what you have mentioned here. Probably I'm going ahead and telling, I would like to name this VM as a test VM, like that. In that case, I will have a folder created here. As it is a Linux operating system, I would like to call this in a decent way called a container. A container will be created, and the container will have few configuration files. What are those configuration files? How many files will be there? In general, if we are going in and creating a virtual machine, we will have definitely, when I go ahead and create a virtual machine with the ESXi version 5.5, I says my ESXi version is 5.5. In that case, it's going to go ahead and create, when I say that I want to create a virtual machine with hard drive, obviously this guy is going to have files which are called as what, in the sense, the configuration file, so .vmx, and the additional or the external configuration file .vmxf, then the snapshots configuration file which is called as .vmsd, then the file called VMDK, which is nothing but the hard disk file of the virtual machine. So this alone, I would like to go ahead and change the color because of one reason, because we are going to go ahead and pay attention on this today. So here I would like to mention it .vmdk. Hopefully I get it's visible for you guys. Now when I go ahead and power on this machine, I get a chance to see few other files. What are those files? Immediately .nvram, a file with a name called nvram will get created. Then you will be able to find VMware log file, that is vmware.log. The nvram is nothing but the BIOS file, and you have something called the vmware.log, which is nothing but the timestamp, or I could go ahead and say these are the actual logs, which means activities will be there in it. So post which you will have few other files. What are those? vmx, then .vm name, whatever the name you keep. Maybe you want to keep it as test, then I can go ahead and say test. Then some numbers will be there. I could go ahead and say some numbers will be there like that. Then you will have VSWP, a file name called VSWP. Then you will have VSWP, and post which we will be able to find few other files also combining, getting merged with it. What is that? VM name dot VMX squiggly, a tilde sign. Then you will have VM name dot VSWP, the memory file. This is the configuration initiator file, and the next one is the memory file. That's nothing but a swap file, I can go ahead and say. And after which you will be able to find another file. What is it? It's nothing but the .vmx.lck. Sorry. So these are the files which you will be generally able to find. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you are using any version which is above 5.5, maybe or 6 or 6.5 or 6.7, then obviously there will be one file which will be reduced, which won't be there in it, because VMware have decided to call back that file, which is nothing but the VMXF won't be there. That's the file which they have given up. They don't want to have that file. So on our previous class, we have discussed about all other files. I would say we have discussed about VMX, VMXF, VMSD, NVRAM, VMware.log, and then VMX, VMname.vswp, and then VMX squiggly line, and then we have something called VSWP, and then the VMX LCK file. We did a detailed research about it on the yesterday's class. So today we are going to go ahead and discuss about the file called VMDK, which was not discussed yesterday. So pay more attention to go ahead and get a complete idea about it. So here I'm going to go ahead and create a virtual machine right now with a name called test. I'm creating a virtual machine, and the virtual machine is asking whether you want to go with typical or custom, and I says I would like to go with custom, and I'm pushing next to it. The moment I say, it's asking for a name. The rule remains same. A void space, the maximum characters what we can have is 80, and I says next. Here's the data store. The hard drive which has been given for this particular ESXi is 40 GB. Since he has taken 7.5 GB as I've shown in the image here, he has taken 7.5. The balance space what you could see is 32.5 GB, which is available here. And again, he has taken some hidden space for him, which is nothing but the 972. Nearly 1 GB has been taken from the data store. So the data store has lost already 972. So the balance space what you could find is 31.55. And As I was telling there, you could find something called the VMFS, which is nothing but the file system. So here VMFS file is the file system which we are following, or probably we are maintaining in this data store. And when I say that I want to create a VM, here is where I'm going to create. So you could see the 40 GB minus 7.5 is 32.5. In this 32.5, this guy have gone ahead and taken 972 MB here in the corner by telling I want it like that. For what? It could be for various reasons, but he says I want the space like that. So the rest of the space are being given to the hypervisor to create virtual machines inside. So now, if I say I'm going ahead and creating a virtual machine, and the virtual machine is going to go ahead and get created inside the data store, I say next to it. Now, it's asking me a question about the version of the virtual machine which I would like to go ahead and create it here. So I would like to say the virtual machine 8 would be good. Why? Why is it asking this question? Simple as this. Tomorrow, in case of me migrating the virtual machine from here to another ESXi host, probably that could be a lesser version, which means it could be a 5 or a 4.5 version, or it could be more, lesser than 4.5. In that case, there could be a hardware conflict which can arise. So to avoid or to overcome from it, they're giving you a choice here to go ahead and decide which version of hardware you want to go ahead and do it. That is the virtual machine version. So as I have no plans to go ahead and migrate the VM down the line to any other host, we are going ahead and selecting the option called the virtual machine version 8. The VM which I'm going to create here is going to go ahead and be here, only here, not going to get moved anywhere. So I've selected this, going ahead and pushing next to it. It's asking for an operating system. I really don't want to confuse you with the different operating system in the beginning, but down the line we will go ahead and discuss about it. So I would like to go ahead and say other, and I'm going to go ahead and select 32-bit of operating system. I'm saying next to it. I would like to go with a single CPU. I don't want to go, confuse it much. And you could see here the memory size 512 is completely fine with me, and one NIC, of course, that's okay with me. I say next. The hard drive, when I'm trying to create a hard drive, it's asking what type of hard drive are you going to choose, which means the PCB design. I would like to say any hard drive is pretty much good for me, because this is the one it's suggesting. I'm not going in and changing anything as such. I'm saying next. So here it's asking me a question that, do you want to create a virtual hard disk? I say no, I don't want to create, and it's saying next. And then it's saying these are the configurations which you have selected, and I say finish here. Now, the moment I've created the virtual machine without a hard drive, what has happened? I'm selecting the host and clicking on the summary. I could find the host has a data store attached to it. I right click and I say browse data store. I could find the test VM, which is almost relevant to the topic here. I created a VM and a container got created inside the data store. Now, it is my choice whether I want to have the VMDK, that is the hard disk file for that VM, or not. So I went ahead and said I don't want a hard drive. So if I go ahead and step in, I will be able to see 3 files. What are those 3 files? I'm so sorry. What are those 3 files which I will be able to find? 1, 2, 3, not the 4th file. Let's go ahead and step in, and then we will see it. I'm opening it. I could find the VMX, vmname.vmx. Here we go, first. Then we have something called vmname.vmx. Of course, we could find it here. The 3rd file, what you see is nothing but the vmst, which you could see it here. I created a VM without a hard drive. That's the reason I have 3 files. Now, let's go ahead and add a hard drive to this VM. How? I right click and says edit settings. Here I'm going in and adding a hard drive by saying add, and I would like to go ahead and say hard disk, and I'm going ahead and saying next. You want to create a hard disk? Yes. And I would like to mention a size of 8 MB, or maybe I would like to go with 16 MB. Remember, I would like to have a smaller size because we may need to download this file, and which may take several minutes. To avoid it, I'm going with a smaller size. 16 would be good, should be, or let's go ahead and try with 24. Okay, so 24 is also pretty huge, but that's okay. I'm saying next, and then I'm creating hard disk, finish. Now there's a hard disk for this VM. I would like to go ahead and say close. I right click and I would like to go ahead and show you that there will be a hard disk for this VM. Here we have a hard drive for this, which is of 24 MB, and then It's a thin provisioning, thinly provisioned. As you know that couple of classes before we discussed about what is thin provisioning, how does it work, what is the mechanism which is being followed inside, all those things. So now I say thin provisioning, and I'm going ahead and saying I want to increase the hard drive size. 24, it's going to 100, right? I'm saying I would like to increase it to 26. All right, I'm saying I would like to increase it to 26. 26 MB thin provisioning, I'm saying okay. And when I come back, I could see edit settings, hard drive size is 26, it got increased. I'm trying to reduce the size to 23. Okay, you won't be able to reduce the size, for heaven's sake, I'm telling you. Remember, if someone is telling that you could go ahead and reduce the size, no, there's no way you could reduce the size of the VM hard drive. You will be able to only increase the size of it. I'm going to go ahead and say 23, and I'm saying okay. When I'm clicking on the OK button, take a look of it, you will be able to see that it will go back to the same 26. Here we go. I did not complete the OK yet, and it has gone back to the 26. I'm saying done. Now when we go back, we could find the hard disk size can be increased, but it cannot be decreased at any cost. Point number 1. Remember. Now the VM we created, and let's go ahead and get into the data store once again. Right click, I say browse data store. Because we have this VM attached with the hard disk, we should have 4 files. 1, 2, 3, 4, and let me know. Here we go, we have this file as well. Now we got this file coming up because of one reason. Why did this file come? It came because of one reason. We added a hard drive for it. So we have 4 files right now. Right? I don't want to complicate much. So let's go ahead and see here. I'm going to right click and says I want to power on this VM. Right click and I says power on. The VM got powered on. Now you will be able to find 10 files inside this folder. Let's go ahead and have a look of it. I refresh it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 files. I would like to go and compare it with the sheet which I showed you before. Here we go. VMX, the first file. VMDK, the 4th file. VMware.log, the 6th file. Then you could find something called the NVRAM, which is nothing but the 5th file. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 5th file. And we have something called VMXF, the 2nd file. Then we have something called VMSD, the 3rd file. Then let's go ahead and take a look at the other files, which I would like to go ahead and show. VMX, VM name with 4 to some numbers, which I have mentioned here almost. VSWP, here we go. We have the 7th file. Let me scroll a bit down. And the next one, what you could see is the LCK, VMX LCK. Here we go, the last one. And we could see the VM name.vmx squiggly line, which is nothing but this file. Then we have the last but not the least file, it's VSWP. Here we have 1 file. So as I was mentioning, there are 10 files which I have listed out here, and all the 10 files are there in this container. So if you ask me, do I need this? I would like to go ahead and say minimize. I don't need you anymore. So I would like to go ahead and say OK to this. Now if I right click and power up this VM, watch it carefully. When I say power it off, 4 visitors will leave this folder. Who are those 4 visitors? The last 4 guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 guys will go off. I'm going to refresh it. Yep, as I said, those 4 guys are gone. You want to compare it? There's no way you could find the VMX, VM name.vswp, or VMX squiggly line, or VSWP, or you won't be able to see the file called VMX.lck file. So these 4 files are the constant files, okay? And we have just went ahead and did a detailed research about each of the file. So I really don't want to go ahead and jump into this once again and do any R&D about it. So now the core concept or the core part of it is going to be about one thing. We are going to basically discuss about the file, which is nothing but the hard disk file. I don't know how many of you are new here in this, but how many of you have heard about the file called VMDK? For them, I would like to show you what's happening now. though it's not the very first day class, so that's the reason. But remember, today's class is going to be about what in the sense VMDK. So whenever you create a virtual machine, okay, you create a virtual machine, you have a hard drive given to it. So the hard drive size what you have given is 26 is what you have given. It's called as 26 MB is what we have given. So I can go and say calc, and I'm saying 26624 divided 1024. It shows you exactly. So it's a MIDI file. Okay, so 26 MB is what the actual size of it. Okay, so pretty much peaceful, pretty much understandable. This is the hard disk file. Now, for the same VM, I'm going to go ahead and say that, okay, one second. Do any of you have any issues hearing me? Because Tenraj have put a message that he has a hard time hearing me. I would like to know, does anyone else experiencing the same? Rajesh, Srinivaslu, or Nirmal, anybody is experiencing this?
No, sir. No, sir. I don't have experience. Srinivas is so.
Okay, okay, awesome. So, and I guess Murthy ji, you don't have any issues. Christopher?
Yeah, I would able to hear.
You are able to hear me, right? Okay. All right, sure. So, okay, so maybe you have to disconnect and then reconnect. I guess that could help you to understand much. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. Sorry for the interruption, guys, but let's go ahead and continue it. Now, we are concentrating on the VMDK file. When I was creating this VM, you know that I decided to create this VM with the thin provisioning methodology. Now, I'm going to go ahead and create a hard disk for this guy. I'm going to say add another hard disk, and I'm going to use the other couple of things. What are those other couple of things which I'm going to use? I'm going to say add hard disk. Next, create a new virtual disk. Yes, 8. Now this time I'm going to go ahead and see 28 MB. I'm not going to download, but 28 MB I'm going to say thick provisioning lazy 0. I'm saying next, finish, and I say okay to it. You would be able to see that there will be a new file with _1. You will be able to see _1.vmdk, but the size of it is 28. If it is a thin provisioning, only when you provision a hard disk in a thinly manner for a VM is when you will have the tab called provision size on top. If you have not provisioned the VM with thin, then the tab itself will be missing. The tab will not be there. At the same time, if you are provisioning in a thick lazy 0, the entire size will be here. You could find it. As if though the VM has completely utilized the disk space, it will be like that. Now, I goes to the same VM and click on the edit settings. And I'm going ahead and saying that I would like to add another hard drive, the third hard drive for this. I say next. And I'm saying thick provisioning eager 0. And here I would like to give 30 MB. 2 to MB difference, right? That's it, nothing much. Next, it says finish. It says go ahead. Now, when I go ahead and seize the container once again, let's take the container once. Right click, browse. You will be able to say _2, and it's in 30 MB. It's 30 MB, I can say probably. So if you're provisioning a VM with thick provisioning, let it be lazy or eager, it will automatically show the complete size here. The tab of provision is of no use. It's of no use. I can right click and say as edit settings, and only here I'll be able to find whether it's thickly provisioned with eager 0 or thickly provisioned with lazy 0. This is what we have. Now, remember, or just think of the hard disk file. What am I doing here in the sense? I have gone ahead and created 3 hard disk files are there in this. There are 3 hard disk files. Watch it carefully. I'm going to go ahead and download the first hard disk file to my desktop. Right click and I'm saying desktop. So, and let me show you my desktop once before I could do it. It's completely free. So when a file is coming, it should come only here. I would like to go ahead and take this back. It says right click and I says download. So I'm going ahead and downloading it, and the hard disk file is getting downloaded. Actually speaking, see, this won't take this long. That's the reason I said I'm on a Wi-Fi. If I'm there in a wired network, then this will not take this long. Take a look of it. When the hard disk file is there inside, it's a single file. When it comes to other surface, you will be able to see it as two file. Now the question comes in this way. Okay, let me know whether this is a single file when it's there inside, or it's a double file when it's there. It is a double file when it's there inside, but still it will be shown as a single file. How can I justify, or how can I prove? The same folder, which is nothing but the data store, I'm going to go ahead and rename this data store. Okay, I'm going to just rename to prove it to you guys. I'm going to rename this as VMware 123. In front of your eyes, I'm doing it as VMware 123. Let's take the capital letter. VMware 123. Now I says done. I'm done with it. Now this is the data store. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this IP in the browser. I'm going to say https://10.0.55.1 and I'm hitting enter to it. It says it's a secured page or something like that. Yep, process though it's unsafe. So I'm on the screen. Here I'm saying I would like to go ahead and browse the data store of my hard disk. It's asking for a username. I'm saying root password. Now VMware 123, you could see the data store. When I click on this, I could find my VM container is here. If I go and step into this container, I could find there are two files in the VMDK, flat.vmdk, and I could find something called the VMDK. Okay, just take a look of the blank file, flat.vmdk and then VMDK. Don't get confused about this. This is another hard drive and this is another hard drive. Just think about the first file alone. These two are like this, one and the third one. Now, I would like to show you in another place as well. When the VM is there, it's inside its double file only. How? I can go ahead and say, I want to go ahead and connect to my ESXi using the putty tool. It's a putty. It may say connection refused, of course, because we have not enabled the shell. So let's go ahead and say host configuration, security profile, properties, SSH, options, start. Okay, done. Come back. Now go ahead and say restart the session. I'm in root password. I've logged in. Now ls-l, it's a command, Linux command, and I could find something called vmfs here. I say cd vmfs. I'm inside ls-l. I could find volumes. I'm saying cd volumes ls-l. I'm trying to step in. I could see my VMware 123 here, so I say cd VMware 123. I'm getting inside it, and if I say ls-l, I'll be able to see my VM here, test VM, cd test VM. I'm going ahead and saying ls-l. You could see two files. One says what in the sense flat.vmdk, another one says vmdk here. So this is 488 and this is 2726 like that. So the file, when it is there inside the data store, yes, of course it is two files, no doubt about it. But for a naked eye, when you're looking in the data store, you'll be able to see it as a single file. Now take a look at this file, which we downloaded. It is a 266204 was the size of it. Now when I says right click and says properties, it shows exactly 26 MB, 2762. It gives in bytes. This is the same thing. This was the one which was showing inside the container, where when we were seeing using the putty tool, it was showing the size in bytes. But if you see here, it's again in bytes or in KB. It's there in KB. That's the reason. Okay, 2.6 like that. So don't get confused about it. It was showing in bytes only. And this is one file and this is another file. Now assume this is in thinly provisioned. Remember, this is being thinly provisioned. That's the reason you have a tab called provision. Now we have downloaded the file and it has come here. Now assume that I've deleted this file. Okay, just think that I've deleted this. I would like to say here new folder, something like that. Okay, all right. New folder itself is okay. Oh, okay. Sorry, mistake. There is no particular structure there. That's the reason. Right click, browse data store. Okay. So now I'm just going in and saying here the file which I have. Assume that I have downloaded this. Of course, we did download. That's why we have these two files here. When I say I want to go ahead and download, now I want to delete this file. Assume that I've deleted, but I'm not deleting it. I'm saying move to. From this location, I'm moving this to another location, which is now nowhere than the folder which we have created. New folder. Now there is no hard disk file. If I try powering on this VM, you will be able to see it will throw an error message and it will stop, because as per the instruction here, inventories details, there should be, we should have 3 hard disks, 1, 2, 3. But there are only 2 disks inside the container as of now, 1 and 2. Because he is unable to power on the VM, because one hard disk is missing, he will create another log file, which means the log file which you see right now, 93.71, will be renamed as VMware-1.log like that. Right click, I says power on. He's popping out the error message. He's missing the hard disk like that. I says okay, fine, like that. Now if I go ahead and see the container by refresh, I'll be able to see a new log file got created for 34.43 and the existing log file got renamed as -1. As I said, it is happening exactly right. Now the hard disk is missing. Okay, need not to worry, I have the hard drive file in my desktop. I'll try importing it. How? I select this folder, I'm going here and saying upload file, and I'm there in the desktop. Here I could find for mine, there are 2 files. One I'm saying that the VMDK I'm trying to upload. The VMDK has come in. Where is it? Here is it. But the logo is missing for this guy. Can I go ahead and power on? Obviously it will throw an error message because that's not the disk file. He's throwing the error message. He did not see, he's not seeing the file. Fine. Now, can I go ahead and say, okay, let me delete this. Let me bring in the other guy. Upload file. I'm going to bring the other guy who's nothing but the flat. I'm saying open. This guy is again 26 MB and he'll be here. The guy has come and the logo is missing for this guy. So if I say power on, obviously he will not be able to power on. Why? Because the expected file is not there. VMDK is not found. So here only if I bring both the file together inside is when he will get the logo on front. So I says I'm bringing this. So both of them are there. Now he got the logo back. You know what? The guy who have gone from here to the desktop has come back. But because he went from this surface to another surface and came back, he has become from thin to thick provisioning. He is no longer in thin provisioning. You don't see the tab called what? Provision size. Earlier how he was? He was like this. The provision size has gone. I'm saying this guy has become thick eager 0. You are asking me how can I prove this? Simple. I right click and click on edit settings. He has become thick, but that was not updated to the inventory. So the inventory still shows us what? Thin provisioning. Now if I go over and say the same inventory, get out of the inventory, remove from the inventory, let me add you back from where? Right click and says add to inventory and I'm bringing him back. I just asked him to go and inspect each of the file and then get added. Now the same guy is telling the first hard drive is thick provision eager 0. You don't believe? Let me show you. If I select the first hard drive, he says thick provisioning eager 0. Which means though you have a VM created with a thin provisioning, and if he goes to a different surface, instead of being in VMXi, from VMFS to another surface, and if he comes back, obviously he's going to be thick eager 0. You know what? Surprisingly, if I increase the size of this hard disk, again he will go back to thin provisioning. You don't believe? Let me show you. 32. I'm saying okay. Right click. I'm clicking on the edit settings. He's becoming thin provisioning now. Miserable, right? Just go and get into the container and see. You will be surprised. The 26 will be as though used, and the 4 alone will be as thin provisioning. I'm going to refresh. 26 is used, and the left out of 6 alone is like thin, which means he has already utilized this much space, and then 6 alone is in thin like that. Got the concept? Maybe confusing, kind of. Okay. Now simply I'm going to go ahead and right click, and then I'm going to say delete. I don't need this hard disk. Let me bring the disk which is there inside it to the same place. Right click and says move to, and I'm saying yes. I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to the same container. Where? Here he is now. He has come back here. His size is only 26. He's not 32. Because we played around on only on that file. He may show as 32, but the actual disk size is only 26. No doubt about it. Probably I can go over and say you did not understand the disk properly. I would like to go over and say right click, remove from inventory, and I would like to go over and say to the same container, let me add you back. Right click, add to inventory. Next, and I'm bringing it. This time this guy will say the first disk is 26 and it's completely in thin provisioning. Right click, edit settings. The first disk is still 26 and it's completely in thin provisioning. I don't know how many of you are confused. This comes only when you make your hands dirty, which means when you start practicing or when you start working with this is when you'll get it. But really, I'm telling you, people who are working for years together, maybe 3 years, 5 years, would have not experienced this because they really don't get access to it, or maybe they don't go over and do these kinds of R&Ds in it. That's the reason. Okay, but it is my responsibility to tell you. Of course, learning is part of life, and that should be free. That's the point here. So here, the hard disk, I've told you. Now, a company have decided to put a thin provisioning and they are running the work in thin provisioning. They want to convert this hard disk into thick provisioning. How can they go ahead and do it? Simple. The one and only file, the VMX file alone, get the option called add to inventory. Not any other file gets that option, add to inventory. Why? That alone can be added to the inventory is the meaning. No other files can be added to the inventory. Similar to it, the thin provisioning hard drive file alone can be done one thing. What? Inflated, which can be converted to thick eager 0. Someone asked any question? Anybody have any question? Did anyone try answering or something like that? Okay. Shall I continue or anybody wants to talk? Okay, perfect. So now I'm going ahead and saying that the companies might decide that I have provisioned this hard drive as thin provisioning. Now I would like to go with thick. Then the VMDK file, which has a provision size that is thin provisioning, alone get one option. What is it? When I right click or when I right click on the VMX, I don't get the inflate option. When I right click on the normal hard disk, which is thickly provisioned, I won't get it. When I right click on NVRAM, I won't get it. When I go and right click on log file, I don't get it. When I click on thick provisioning eager 0, I won't get it. But if I go and click on the hard drive which has been thinly provisioned, I get the option called inflate. So when I say inflate, it will go and basically do scrubbing of it. It will say, I'm just going and scrubbing it. So what it will do, it will basically convert this hard disk into thick eager 0. Not only that, this guy will go and inform to the inventory as well. If you go and right click and see edit settings, you will be able to see it has become thick eager 0. You will never be able to make it as thick lazy 0 when you inflate it. You can only make it as thick eager 0. You know what is the funniest part here? If you try increasing the hard disk size from 26 to 28 or 27, it will become thick lazy 0. You don't believe? Let me show you. 27, 1 MB have increased. I'm saying okay to it. I'm coming back and I'm showing the same hard disk to you. It's lazy 0. So it's the understanding which you have to get hold on it. Okay, it will never become eager. Can I make it as eager? There is no way you could make it because it's done is done, and you will never get the option to do an inflate or anything for that particular file because you have already done with it. I right click and says, okay, I have to refresh. That's when it will show you 27, right? I'll refresh. It's showing 27, and I right click. There's no inflate to make it as thick eager 0. So this is something which I would like to talk about the hard disk file today, so which I was doing it. Perhaps I would like to go ahead and show you some more important things which I want to do. So let's go ahead and take a look at the file. You have two files, 1 and 2. What is a hard disk file according to VMware? These things and all we got an idea. Now there is one file who's there inside it who's no one else than the VMDK. Now I would like to go ahead and take a new paint page and I would like to go ahead and tell you how does it work. You are telling that this is my hard drive. You are telling that this is my hard disk. What would be there on the hard disk? Obviously the hard disk will have a platter. This is what we will have inside it. And in the center we will have one thing called a spindle, which we call it as a motor, which is like, helping you to spin. Here we have one screw. So here we have one screw, and here we have one screw, and here we have one screw. So there are 4 screws. Now this is the hard disk, and inside the hard disk you will have something like this, which can go ahead and basically read the data, which is nothing but the head or the activator arm, which goes and read the data. This is the 40 GB hard disk. So you give this hard disk to the operating system. The operating system, in the sense like any operating system you give, operating system consider this plate as what? One big circle. When you say you want to install the operating system, it will say firstly I want to format the hard disk. So what do you mean by formatting? Basically this guy will get formatted. What is formatting? Again, going in and creating tracks and sectors depending upon the file system you choose. If I would like to go and say I'm going in and using a file system which is nothing but NTFS, then it will go ahead and create lots of tracks inside and sectors. How it will create tracks and sectors? It goes ahead and creates tracks, and it goes ahead and creates sectors after that, right? So this is called as tracks, and you go ahead and says I want to create tracks and sectors. Here I've created a track, lots of tracks created. Now what is a sector? If I have to go and show this line, I could see each of the cake piece kind of thing. What you see is a sector. This is your disk. Now you are creating a virtual machine. Okay, understand that you are given this disk to whom, in the sense to the ESXi. ESXi has gone ahead and formatted this disk, and then it is installing the Linux operating system, which is nothing but the syslinux. So syslinux 3.86 is the version which VMware is using on their ESXis. So syslinux 3.86 should can work on the file system called ext2, 3. It can work with both. Now if they are using ext2 or 3, it's immaterial for us. Now it's going to go and install the operating system syslinux. So where the syslinux will get installed? Syslinux will go and get installed here, 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 and all. Now after the syslinux have got installed, it's going here and saying that it just want to go and give the remaining available space, the balance left out space. he wants to go and give it to the data store. So the data store is obviously in green color. So the data store collects all these guys, all these empty sectors. All these empty sectors are being collected by whom, in the sense, by the single file. So assume that the maroon color what you have are all put together is 7.5 GB. The rest of the green color are on 32.5 GB. So the 32.5 GB of each of the sector, 32.5 GB, is nothing but the green color. So this has been given to whom, to, in the sense, to the data store. The guy data store thinks what, this 32.5 GB is nothing but what, in the sense, he assumes that as he basically assumes that 32.5 GB as what, in the sense, one full green circle. He understands that as a one full green circle, and in the center there is one spindle, a motor like that. He will think in that way. And in this, he goes ahead and creates what, in the sense, he goes ahead and creates tracks and sectors. He creates a tracks and sector inside it by telling VMware follows its own file system. What is a file system? The file system is nothing but VMFS3 or 5 or 6. They use as the file system like that. And the data store, what you see generally, is nothing but the one which I am showing you right now. Tracks and sectors are involved in it, with no doubt. This is how it's going in and taking it. Now tracks and sectors got created for data store. Now this is your data store. The 32.5 GB, what you see here when I'm trying to create, right click, new virtual machine, and then it shows something custom. Let's not change the name of the VM. You see here the data store. The data store, what you see here is nothing but the one which I'm showing you right now here. Or you want to go over and see, or you want to go and consider this as a data store, the one which you see, yep, same thing. Or you want to go over and see that I have gone ahead and said browse data store, the one which you see here, everything would be same. Okay, so in fact, if I have to show you in an abrupt way, I can go and show you this way. How can I show that? I'm just opening my computer here. You see the drive letter E and I'm opening it. You really think that is a drive letter which I'm opening it? Not exactly. When I go and select this and then right click and click on properties, this will also have a file system and it is in circle only. You have used this much and this much is left out like that. So the circle why it is showing, it could have showed you in square or something like that. No, because tracks and sectors are created here only. So now, as I was telling here, you could see the data store is this. You are going in and creating a VM like the way we have showed here. In purple color, I've created a VM. So what is going to happen? The purple color VM has been allotted with certain sectors. This and all been allotted to that particular VM. So the VM assumes this as what, in the sense, all put together, he will assume that as 30 MB or 26 MB of VMDK. For you, it's a file, VMDK. For the operating system, it's a disk. What do you mean by disk? Simple. All these things put together is nothing but a circle for him. And in this circle, it will leave the center space. It leaves the center space, and the rest of the space it's going to go and create by telling, I want to create a tracks and sector. Tracks and sector will be created. But you may think in this way, but the actual happening is what you know. The tracks and sectors are not getting separately. It's getting created here. It's getting created here. This is how it's getting created. I would like to go and choose a different color for a transparency. Probably, yeah, this color would do, I guess. I'm creating a VM here. The VM says these sectors are mine like that. And it is going to go ahead and create tracks and sectors inside it. So what is happening inside it? Tracks and sectors, circle, and then you have to have a lines coming here and going. How these lines and then tracks and sectors can be created? If I ask you to draw all these things on a paper and pen, how you will do it? You will be able to do this only using a compass and probably a divider, and I forgot many things. So what you will call this as? This is what we call as geometry, and that's the information which you have on the additional file. You have the VMDK, flat.vmdk is your hard disk file. There is no way you could open and see what is there inside it. If you try opening, nothing will be accessible in it. It will say not responding, and there are no softwares which are found yet to go over and peek in and see what is there inside it. If someone could go over and see, that means the security of virtual hard disk has gone, is what the meaning is. So that's not there till now. Close the program. Okay, but when you open the additional file, which is nothing but the here what it says, geometry cylinders, you have geometry sectors like that. So with the help of this file only, the actual hard drive is getting created. The virtual hard drive of a VM is getting created. So every single time when you create a VMDK for your VM, what is happening? Basically, it's taking the place from the data store and it is going in and creating tracks and sectors inside it virtually. Physically, whatever happens, that's the same thing which is happening here. Now, I don't want to go ahead and stop with this. VM, the hypervisor will never go ahead and identify a file with the name. It always checks the logo as well, which is there in front. If it is NVRAM, there should be a chip. If there is a notepad, then if there is a log file, then there should be a notepad symbol in front. And if there is a hard disk file, there should be a disk. Maybe we can go ahead and see this way. I would like to show you a little more. Yep. NVRAM has an IC. Oh my God, what?
Always scan this section.
You could see this chip. A hard disk has a disk, and then you could see something called some cubes on top of it. And the VMX has 3 papers, and this has like a scribbling pad like that. So each of the file has its own logo. So VMware doesn't looks, or the hypervisor doesn't go ahead and look only for the actual file extension. It also looks for the logo. If the logo is available, is when it will go ahead and basically identify and then work. That's the reason if you go and put a file, it will not take it. So there are 2 files which are there here, which you could see. One is the flat file, flat.vmdk is one file, and another one is just the VMDK. Just the VMDK is generally called as the metadata. What is metadata? A file which holds the information about another file is called metadata. So this file's information is there on this. So this file is called as a metadata. But in explanation, in general, we used to call this as a crown file, and this we called as a queen file. If a queen is coming inside the palace, or if she's stepping into the actual place where she is supposed to, she will never receive any respect without a crown. So a queen plus a crown should come, only then the respect will be there. If the queen alone is coming, no respect. If the crown alone is coming, no respect. Which means if you are going in and uploading the queen alone, no, the VM will not power on, it will not identify. If you upload the crown file alone, no, it will not respond. Both queen and crown should be there. So that's the reason we call that file as a sensitive queen and crown file like that. So I guess you have a pretty decent idea like what am I trying to mean here. Now let's go ahead and understand. I just created one container. Actually speaking, I should have created 3 VMs to show you the difference. Perhaps I thought I will have one VM and then explain everything in a simple manner. But yeah, but not to worry about it. Let's go ahead and take the second file and then talk about it. You have a VM here, and I would like to go ahead and delete these 2 files because I gave you a clarity on it. So I'm going ahead and throwing it to the dustbin. Done. Now let me go ahead and download the second file, which is right click, edit settings. I have the second file which is provisioned as lazy 0, and the third file is provisioned as eager 0. The first file, it's in, after doing an inflate, it became thick provisioning eager 0. We increase the size, it became lazy 0. Now I would like to say OK to it. You can only increase the VM's hard disk file. You will be never able to decrease it. I right click and then I say power on the VM. It's powered on. I right click and click on edit settings. Doesn't matter. I can go and increase the hard disk size. I can increase the hard disk size at any point. No worries at all. Now I say OK to it. Now let's go ahead and take a look of the second file. I would like to right click and say power off. I would like to right click and say browse data store. I'm getting into this, and here I would like to show you the file called VMDK1. The VMDK1 is nothing but the thickly provisioned lazy 0. You don't believe? I click on edit settings and I click on this, and I could see here _1 and it's lazy 0. Now I'm going ahead and saying what, in the sense I want to download this file to my desktop. Right click and download to my desktop. Here we go. I have downloaded the file. As I said, there are a couple of files in it. One is the logo file, which is nothing but the crown file, 464 bytes. And if I open it, it will have the geometrical sector, circles, all those details. And here is the disk file. I won't be able to open it and see. It's 28 MB. You could find it. These are the two files which are there. Now, if I go ahead and say I want to delete this file, I'm saying right click, and then I'm going ahead and saying move to. I'm moving to a different location, from here to another location. Here we go. I've moved it. Obviously, as you know, that the second disk is not there. If I try powering on, it will scold me by telling there's no hard disk. How can I power on? Fine, understood. Now I have the file in my desktop, right? Why don't I bring it back? I would like to go ahead and say I'll bring back the file. I'm going ahead and saying here we have the flat file first coming in. Then I'm saying upload another file, which is nothing but my additional file. So 1.vmdk is coming inside. You can see it here. Yep. So the 1.vmdk has come inside here. You could see the size remains same. There's no difference. Now, as per this inventory, the hard disk is what, in the sense thick lazy 0. But you know what? Because he has gone to another surface, that is the VMFS, from VMFS to NTFS, and then it came back. The same disk has become 28 MB, has become what, in the sense eager 0 now. You don't believe? Let me show you. Right click and says remove from the inventory. And I'm saying right click. I'm sorry. Let me go and get into the container. Come on. Okay. Here I am going in and saying I want to add it to the inventory. Right click, add to inventory. Here we have it. I right click and click on edit settings. I could find the second disk is eager 0 now. Any VM disk, okay, which is there in thin or thick provisioning, goes out and comes back, it will be definitely as what, in the sense it will become a thick eager 0. But remember, if I increase the size, it will go back to thin provisioning. Sorry, lazy 0. I would like to increase it to 28 to 29, just one. Okay. Here you could see eager. I'm saying okay. I'm coming back. It will go back to again lazy 0. You don't understand the concept, you will never understand. Simple as this. Why? It's kind of, not confusing. Practice is the only thing which can tell you what is happening behind the screen. Now, is it over? Of course, I would like to right click and say delete the virtual machine. Done with. I'm creating a new virtual machine and I'm saying custom, saying next. I'm going to install, maybe Windows is what I'm going to install. Next, next, next. I'm going to say Windows 98 is what I'm going to install. So next, 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 next. Create a new virtual disk. I says next. I says thin provisioning. I'm saying 8 MB is fine with me. Next. Finish. I've created a VM here, and then we have a VM which is being created, and obviously I would like to close and reopen this. Browse data store. Here I have the Windows. I'm opening it. What is the size of the disk? 8 MB. It's in thinly provisioning. That's why you could get a tab called provision size. You know for sure. Now, can I increase the size of this hard disk? No, I can't increase. Why? You said you can increase. You cannot decrease. No, it will be grayed out. Why so? Okay. If I power on, will I be able to increase? No, you can't increase. A while ago you said you can power increase the hard drive size, but you can't decrease. But now it's completely grayed out. Why? Because when you're creating a VM, if you go ahead and provision the hard disk, okay, with the IDE parameters, then you won't be able to go ahead and increase the size of the hard disk. If it has only been, provision with SCSI controllers is when you will be able to increase. Okay, there is no way you could decrease. But let me go and add the hard disk, add a hard drive, I says, and then says virtual. Now I'm saying instead of 8, I'm saying 10 MB, thin provisioning. Next, here you could see something called ID SCSI. I say SCSI and says next, finish, okay. Now if I right click and see edit settings, one hard disk I can increase. Why? Because it's in SCSI. If it is IDE, I won't be able to increase it. That's where it stands. There is no way I could go and change it. Why did it get created with IDE? Because if I select the operating system Windows 98 and then if I create, if the operating system is Windows 98, by defaultly the hard disk will be provisioned in IDE only. So there are some operating systems who don't support SCSI controllers. So for those operating systems, if you create it in SCSI, then the operating system may not work properly. So it is always advisable to go ahead and create the actual size or the required size in the beginning itself, because there is no way you could increase it in the future, even if you power it off or you leave it as it is. So that matters a lot. So you guys have to be very careful with it. Anything else which we need to discuss about the hard disk file, VMDK file? I guess we have discussed enough about it, and of course there are some more which I did not discuss yet. Probably it will be coming down the line. We will be discussing about it. Let's meet on another happy day. So anybody have any questions? Maybe it could be a rapid fire round for you guys, or a very faster session, because time was the only thing. Yes, Mr. Murthy sir.
Do we have any real-time scenario like this, how you are showing now and all?
Do we have any scenario?
When we are making it a thick plate, 0 converted as a
No, this you would face in your day-to-day activity. You could face it. This, if you're going to be a VMware engineer, definitely you will come across these kind of situations where your brain may not work at that point because you would have not seen the scenarios before. So since I have seen this many times and I've actually fiddled around this, I'm just explaining of the class. So anybody else have any questions? No, right? Okay. So thank you so much. We'll end the session here, and I have a session at 9:30. So let me go ahead and connect there. So we'll meet on another occasion and keep watching. All right. So thank you so much. Have a good day ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm Nagaraj.
Yes, Nagaraj.
9:30 Tamil session or
9:30 is the English session, sir.
same VMware?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Same ID or a different ID?